So this is my application of the system analysis work. It's a sensitivity model of Frederick Fester, and I'm a disciple. How do you say that? I'm a student of Gabi. I actually got. I also in my when I did my degree with Malik, she graded one piece of my work. So this is when I got into that, and ever since 2016, we've been meeting again and again, and we've done different work together. And this presentation is about one piece of that, and also I'm giving a glimpse of what I'm trying to do right now. Okay, so a little bit about me. I've always worked in IT, and basically my professional life is split into two pieces. On the left-hand side, I've done a lot of in-house corporate IT in different industries, and also right now, mostly in the insurance industry. And on the right-hand side, I've been also on the consulting and sales of enterprise IT area. So where I was in different organizations in the professional services sector, and my the common interest now is I'm interested in transformation in services and systems thinking in complexity management in my roles, trying to develop my organizations, steering them towards good outcomes and goals. I'm working globally. I'm Germany based. A starting point for the first time when I did a model was actually that, and this is, I mean, it's been always true, and it's getting truer every. It will never stop to be true that IT teams operate in challenging environments, and the question is always what helps us to steer and focus on the right things. Constantly having cost pressure, there's growing expectations from everyone. The technological change is accelerating ever, and no slowing down. There's always insufficient capacity and capability in the business units for organizational development. So there's always a lack of absorption capacity in the business to really work with the IT systems that we provide. Whenever you put a system in place, an IT system in place, you actually don't really have an asset. You actually are building technical debt, and there's a rising need for IT security and resilience. And what I looked at as a mental model, which I always liked, was the flywheel, which Jim Collins brought into the discussion in 2001, saying that if you apply small, consistent efforts, that you can build momentum, that you have larger and larger effects, and it's starting to become almost a little bit more effortless, or you can focus your efforts onto more important things. And these feedback loops drive growth and performance. And one of the most famous application of this flywheel is actually Amazon as an organization that is proving every day that their flywheel is intact and that they are a growing organization. And Jim Collins worked with Amazon, the Amazon leadership team in 2001. And that time, Amazon was almost dying because of the dot-com crash. And if you imagine, if you take the share price of today and imagine you have a crash from 107 US dollars to six, you might imagine what is going on in this situation. And I think we are at a similar point in time right now where everybody is also expecting when is this next crash actually going to come. And so Jim Collins met this leadership team, and this meeting was actually the birth of the Amazon flywheel, I've been part of Amazon for a while. I know the organization really works in this discipline ever since, and it's exploiting the advantages of this self-reinforcement model. And it's it's geared for growth, and it doesn't matter where you start, right? So, but it starts with customer experience should be good. If you have good customer experience, it drives traffic. This attracts sellers to your shops that want to be in your shops. This drives selection, which is really, again, interesting for customer experience. If you have a lot of selection, you can work on your cost structure, offer lower prices, which customers really like, which drives, again, traffic, drives sellers, and so on and so on. And this is how this organization has been working, and put diligent efforts on these levers. So the question is, how the hell do you get a flywheel like that for you working? So organizations would actually need a reliable method to develop such a flywheel that fits. And the questions are, well, how do we identify the right variables? How many variables are necessary and appropriate? And how do we know that we mapped a system completely without overlooking something that is truly essential? How do we know if we have covered our blind spots? How do we assess the connections between the variables? How do they drive each other? And then the next question is, how much effort is this process for us? How does it take? Is this worth our time and effort to invest into such a process? And then I obviously also detected Frederick Fester's model together with Gabriele, and you heard about that, right? So it's a structured, iterative process and method, and it enables this shared learning process. And what I like a lot about it is that it cultivates a shared mental model of what matters, and it enables teams to develop these models with feedback loops, and this gives you orientation and reduces complexity to where it matters and allows you to drive towards results. And Gabi didn't show this picture, but I love that one, right? So this is was basically his advocacy, right? So he advocated that we need to bring different pieces of the world together again and look at it holistically, and our expertise and our differentiation has driven us apart, so we don't understand things anymore together. And we need to bring the broken network back together. So, um, and the very first question that you need to actually find out is, what is the system that we are focusing on? And you need to be able to describe that. And then once you have your system level described at the right uh, granularity or the right level, then you need to identify your key question. And this is probably the most important step in the whole process. And also now with AI abundance, this is the human element that is not going to go away. We need to have good judgment, and we need to ask the right questions. So, and this is also the success of this method hinges on finding the right question. So, one question that I worked on with a team a couple of years back was we agreed together that a key question we wanted to get a common opinion on was to understand what influenced our cost in our IT applications. And in my current team, our key question is, how does IT strengthen the company's competitiveness? So this is something that we also worked on. And then for a system in focus, what do you need, right? So you describe the environment of the system and what kind of functions it has, the responsibilities, and how it is connected to other parts in an organization or in an environment. And this was an example of my IT team at a large corporate insurance, where we were in charge of a full set of IT applications. In the second case study, this is in my new leadership team. We ran an IT leadership strategy workshop for 2 days. And here the situation was that we had a new composition of the IT leadership team, so people did not know each other yet that well. The change that we are driving should be driven by the newly joining leaders, and we have a large transformation program underway. So as a prerequisite to our workshop, we defined this guiding question in a smaller scale, and we did inform the participants in advance of the goal of the workshop, and we gave a little bit information about the method so people could read up on that. We did an advanced digital survey on expectation, and in advance, we also collected profiles of individual participants. And then we ran this for 2 days on site. And these were our goals, right? So we wanted to create a shared understanding and document our mental model, sharpen strategic direction. We wanted to foster team development, exchange, and then we wanted to experience advanced tools of modern leadership, especially in complexity management, and bring that closer as a leadership practice to the team. And as Gabi explained, what really works well in those workshops is if you do this game, this eco-policy game, and you open up people's brains to recognize what complexity is about. And that's usually is also lighthearted. It's a fun intervention, and people really enjoy that. And as Gabi showed, right? So these are the 8 variables in this game, and people then engage in that and play rounds to make sure that they stay in government and are not causing a complete breakdown and civil war in this country. Yeah, and then what these workshops look like, and I think these pictures give a good perspective. So this was from last December. You start to brainstorm variables, and what really influences our key question. You break people into different working groups, and then you come back together, and then you discuss the variables with each other, and you try to cluster them. And the goal is then, and this is the reduction that happens and makes it manageable, is that you have fewer than 20, because then you start to work with those 20 variables. But as you can see from the pictures, this is a major step in these workshops to get to the 20. And this was the first intervention that I had, so a couple years back. And what you need to do is, with those 20 variables, they need to be described and they should be scalable. And Gabi is quite insisting now on this, that they are scalable. And this is where things can go wrong, and models can really also improve, right? So variables should be changeable, moving quantities, objective facts, empirical values. They can be soft quantities, hard quantities. And it's important to have a correct naming, a short description, and then this initial scaling, what also Gabi explained, right? So where is it, right? And how does it scale? And here are examples, right? So a variable called management is not meaningful. Only CO2 is also not meaningful. A meaningful is a quality of management. This can be high or low, right? Or a CO2 price can be high or low. And then you iterate through the variable description a couple of times. And then what you do is you connect variables together. How are they connected to each other? So what change in one variable drives a change in a next variable? And you develop these so-called system sketches. And I have to say, sometimes if you only have time to get to a system sketch is already a very useful, helpful result of such a workshop. If you have a description like that in place. And in our IT cost example, what influences the costs of our IT applications, these are the 15 variables that we came up with. And then you might ask, so how do you know those are the right 15? And how do you know you did not forget something that is very important? And this is where the method that Vesta developed it gives you a couple of reassurances. So what you do is you check the variables for the so-called 18 essential criteria. So living systems all have complied to 18 essential criteria, and you check your variable set against these 18 criteria. So, for example, in the group A of these criteria, there is the spheres of life, right? So, who is here? Participants. How is it spatially distributed? Are there rules and laws in place that need to be considered? Group B is pure physics, right? It's usually easy in a system to get to information and communication variables. It's more difficult to also include matter and energy kind of variables. But in order to be complete, you need to also check those boxes and have that included. And then your system needs to have enough variables that dynamics are included, and how the system is relating to the environment of the system, to the outside for input, or to the outside with output. And where is the sphere of influence, right? Can you influence from within, or is it influenceable from the outside? And this is basically done in a matrix like that. And here you can see an example, not from one of my projects, but this is from one of Gabi's projects in one of the community municipalities projects, where they checked against these variables to see how everything is covered. What you do next is you bring as I said, you can connect variables via these arrows on a system sketch, but you can do this also in a more quantitative way. And this is where you bring variables together in a matrix, and you see how one variable is influenced by the other. And then you decide also, you also assess the strength of the connection. So there can be a very weak effect, or there can be no effect at all, right? So these are the zeros. Then there can be a very weak effect, under proportional effect. Then there can be a parallel effect, the same direction, same strength. And then you have variables where a small change in A gets to a over proportional change in variable B. And then you put them all together in this matrix. And then what you do next is you display that. You can display that in a sensitivity map. And this is a true map because the variables are connected to each other. So if you change something, also the map is changing. And these maps look like this. Ah, yeah. These maps look like this. And this is a picture that you've already seen also with Gabi already. There are levers that are highly active in this green area. Then there are critical variables that are strongly active and strongly reactive. And then there are buffering variables that are important to stabilize the system, but where you cannot really do anything, yeah, or they don't react to actions, and it's not really worth it to aim activities, resources, energy, or money towards them. And so this was the sensitivity metrics that we had for our cost influencing diagram. And what Gabi said before, right? So we had one influencing variable called number 7, good management practices. And this was a key lever for the whole system. Or another one was that we were focusing on internal financial processes and transparency. And that was also a variable that was driving. And the output variable that you're trying to influence is actually the cost of an IT application, which sits on the right-hand side back here. And here number 14. Engaged people is a highly critical variable that you influence indirectly. So somebody in the group already asked, well, wouldn't it be nice to get to a simulation? But before you can do a simulation, you really need to describe every single variable. And you need to scale every single variable. And so this is also why it is useful to have a limited set of variables as long as they cover a full system. Because this is the work that is required, and this can be quite intensive to come to that level of understanding of a system. But once you have done that, you can actually connect variables into feedback loops together. And then you could start to also, once you have scaled them, and in this first example that I did in my career, we didn't do the scaling, so we didn't get to the step to actually also do simulations. So this is something that we were missing in this first experiment. But we could connect variables like this. And basically what you can do then, you can simplify it further and you can derive a flywheel, which you can then relate back to some very systematic work, and you can show that this is actually connected to and is really functioning as a flywheel. So we started with good management practices, which had a good influence on clear internal financial processes, which were driving then lower cost of IT applications. This was driving standardization. We were working on skills management, which drove engagement of people, which again led back to good management practices. And this is actually how we set actions in motion in our team with high agreement in the whole team. So this was really a joint training, and we did really work on leadership and good management practices. We focused on skills management, driving a hackathon of ideas, and really used time and energy to work on learning. We did learning marathons to develop technical skills, development plans for every employee. And this was really then also followed through because people could understand why we were driving at that. Um, we had a program to implement tools and processes for transparent steering of revenue and costs per IT application, and drove ownership of these applications by the team leads. And we had really deliberate and continuous follow-up suggestions from engagement surveys by the IT leaders, and that really also drove engagement. And I can only say, after 3 years, our IT application costs were at benchmark level. We had annual productivity gains that we passed on to the business. We managed profitability of our IT applications, and we could fund group transformation projects outside of our division. We had extremely high forecast quality of our business metrics, stable operating processes, good project outcome, compliance was fine, and the business loved to work with us, and employees loved to stay with us and work with us. So basically, it worked. And to come back to this Lincoln picture that Gabi also showed, I just think that Festa trains to switch to a different way of seeing and perceiving, and it teaches people to do big picture thinking. In this blur, the larger whole can reveal itself. So it's a different way of switching your vision, and this, only with this blur you can see the whole picture, and this method allows you to reduce data to the essentials, without denying the complexity that you're actually dealing with. And this is basically also a bit of a comparison to other approaches. So other approaches often focus very much on quantity. Soft variables are left out. Interrelationships are not in view, right? I mean, I look at Patrick and patterns of strategy, which is like a relationship mega methodology, right? So this is often not seen. There's no shared understanding of the goal. Sometimes it looks very scientific, yeah, with calculations and weightings. It's often expert heavy and neglects important aspects of the user. Sometimes you just can't access it. It's too technical. It focuses on details, volumes of data. It's often more a study, and then it focuses on experts, and external statements remain alien to the participant, block implementation, right? So you don't really get into implementation, and then you return to business as usual. And Festa's approach engages the whole team, right? So you have quantitative and qualitative variables from the start. You structure. You capture the connectivity. It's clearly about system understanding, shared goal definition. It includes many perspectives from different faculties and perspectives. It's a joint development. It's participatory. It's transparent, and this drives acceptance. You can have comprehensive results. It uses pattern recognition and reduces data volumes that you need to collect. And the system context reveals the relevance of variables and of its effects. And in the end, you have a shared system understanding as the basis and the reason for why people should actually apply energy to implementation. And that's why I like it. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. That's really interesting. I like how I can see lots of potential for um, interaction and coexistence with other methods, and that perhaps that's another thing that we might want to talk more about when we talk about sort of multi-method and things like that. So it may come up in September. Who knows? Can I just check while Gabriel and Andrea, you'll be still here. Can I just establish the RAG status? Are these red, amber, or green? The
These
status of both of these.
this is green from my side because it's published work anyway in our book. I talked about it in Hull, and no, not in Hull. In where did I talk about it?
Milton Keynes.
Yeah, in Milton Keynes. Yeah, it's published work. I talked about it at Dach. Mine is green.
Gabriel?
Yeah, so somehow a little bit orange or so. Maybe I would like share some of the slides and some of them maybe not, but maybe some others, which might be also interesting.
All right, so fine. Andrea, you're green. Gabriel, your amber
Orange.
status. Okay, that's fine. That's what I need to know.
Thank you for
I see
asking.
some hands up. Patrick, would you like to go first, please?
Yeah, it's a technical question. It's one that Gary has asked, but I'm asking it because I'm really interested in it for reasons that we might get onto on another occasion. To How important is it to understand so when you're doing the A affects B, does B affect A? How important is it to understand the mechanism of causality there, as opposed to sort of maybe veering towards correlation rather than causation? Do you have to understand, um, yeah, how much do you have to understand about why A affects B?
You want to say something, Andrea? You want to
No,
answer it?
no, I follow
Okay.
you.
Okay.
Does the question make sense?
Yes, of course.
No, okay, it's important anyway that you know the system, because if you don't know it, also, or you are part of the system or you have to do some research, but if not, you cannot assess it. Also you must know or how strong is that impact. And it's very important to describe it in words also. Or you put a 3 and then somebody sees the matrix and say, oh, why is there a 3? And then you have to
Mm-hmm.
explain it. And of course, you have to know it. But let's say it is a little bit fuzzy in itself also, or because we have only these, also usually 4 values, also like 0, 1. Also 0, you can say, okay, that's clear. 1 is a weak value. It's also easy or a long-term development. And the 2 would be a direct strong, and 3 would be very strong. So a small change would affect a strong change in the other variable. This can also mostly be still evaluated, also without too complicated research. We invented number 4 effect in the last 2 years after Corona and Ukraine and all these wars that we have really so extremely strong effects. So that this is not really very strong effect, so but it's a kind of
Outsize.
hard hit.
Yeah.
And we invented the 4, and it comes from time to time. Yes.
But I mean, you're doing two things, aren't you? One is the how much this variable has to go
Mhm.
up to affect that variable, and
Yeah.
the other is how strong is the connection between them.
Yes.
Not the kind of volume, which is
Mhm.
the differential rates thing, but the how certain are we of the effect? And it's both those things, I guess. Is that
There
right?
can be a correlation, or if you have something with numbers, so you
Hmm.
have a number of employees and what you have to pay or whatever costs, or in a single constellation, also or in one relationship, you can maybe you have numbers, and then you can say, okay, is it correlated or not? Or you
Is
have
it causal? Yeah.
um, you don't know it exactly. Or then you can say, okay, we have to ask somebody, or we have to find other experts, or we have to do a research. Is
Yeah.
there a connection? And always concerning also the starting question, not to forget.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, and so usually what you do, you give people this kind of handout, right?
Hmm.
With this A B thing.
Yeah.
And and then you are in a breakout session like here, and Gabi has a really funny video. These are three Chinese professors discussing a value, right? And in the end,
Yes.
it's like a one. It's a really passionate discussion, and it's across all cultures, and it, I mean, it's the interesting thing is the thing is usually in a workshop like that you try to also get through. So in December, what we did is we split the matrix into three groups, and then because we wanted to get to a result, right? And then you can go back and write and change it, right? And if it's a wrong value or there is no connection, then you scrap it again.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you, Gabriel and Patrick. Robin, I think was up next.
Yeah, thank you. I actually done this for real about 10 years ago
All right.
because my current business partner, Torsten Gert, was a St. Gallen student.
Oh.
So we were working together on a particular intervention with a company, and he said, "Oh, this is quite interesting." And effectively, how I see this from the UK systems thinking world viewpoint is it's a causal loop diagram, and the distance between two variables is the number of 3, 2, 1 score you give it. Put it into the matrix, and the matrix, if you've got the right matrix in the Excel spreadsheet, pushes out a nice little graph with your zones of buffer
Yes.
or intervention. Very easy. It's not complicated. You just have to go through the process, get your diagram, and we completely bamboozled the client because they thought they were doing one thing and actually they were doing something else. And it was very successful. So yes, it's not as complicated as it seems. It is quite simple. You just need to have the basic principles and building blocks to follow the process.
Interesting.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Good
you
example.
can do this also in self-application, right? If you want to sort out a problem, right? You just do it with yourself, a little matrix, right? So that also works.
Good. Thank you, Robin. Good example. Thank you. Simon, you're next, I believe, with the hands up.
Yeah, thanks very much. It's really interesting to see the application of it, and it sort of draws on a number of things that different methods bring, right? So I think it's exciting. I also think it's exciting that you're applying it to the insurance industry, an industry that has needed systems thinking, I would argue, for quite a long time. Didn't need it when it was just about pricing products, about improving claims handling and underwriting, traditional kind of stuff. But it seems to me the insurance industry is changing fundamentally. The application of AI, the ability to get big data and not just do basic demographics, to price differently, to factor in thousands and thousands of data points, the ability to use Internet of Things and wearables, the formulation of ecosystems of plays around different parties that used to be very separate and insurance just sat in the middle of it doing what it had to do. All of that says to me system thinking is going to be really fundamental to it. Are you starting to get engaged on those kinds of topics with this kind of method rather than the traditional, how do I improve the cost base of my IT function?
Yes, but obviously I'm using this first in my immediate sphere of influence. I'm lucky that there is a couple of fellow board members who are also systems thinkers, and but I haven't yet dared to present something like this at that level to not scare people too much. But I still have time. And I'm getting ready for the moment that I'm going to introduce these types of methods also at that level. Yeah.
The banking and capital market has learnt about, I don't know, 15 years ago that it's fundamentally about information services. And I think the insurance industry is learning that now. So maybe it's not going to be as frightening when they realize that their fundamental business is actually moving information around and doing stuff with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe. Simon, thank you. Good example. Good point. Kai Uwe, you had a question.
A question and maybe a remark. So what I like with this approach is at the end, in case you look into the sensitivity map, you just need to look into the left upper corner because there are the active variables and those you pull. So I think there was the question how to sell it to clients. The outcome is a clear message. Look at them and watch the passive and don't touch the critical unless you need it. So it's really easy to translate that. Question to Gabi, and I think I asked that already last year. One of the major differences to other models is that there's a completeness check, right? This is the step 3 in your round trip, where you check each and every variable, whether you have a holistic view of the reality. And question is whether something new needs to be introduced there, because in this digital age and with AI, I'm not too sure whether you can somehow factor it into this variable implicitly, but maybe given the influence of social media and so on and so forth, whether this should deserve an extra line item to check whether you haven't overlooked something on their side. Because otherwise, my fear is with that model, you just model the physical world and not the digital world. You're not checking the variables explicitly whether you have covered that.
Yeah, also yes, I remember that question, and
Okay, sorry.
no problem. No, it's good because it's still active. Of course, also for example, we have these 3 topics: matter, energy, and information. Also you are asking, also from these 18 system criteria, there are the group 3, is it, as you called it, and you have matter, that's clear, oder? And you have energy, that's also clear, and you have information. Also and we added a little bit the word communication. Also, but of course, also we tried once even to enlarge it also at the Malik time. Then we added some of the Malik topics, management especially, would also be interesting as a special part. But also until now, also if you have any idea, of course, it's always welcome, and we can integrate it.
I
Of
might come
course,
up with
we
something.
can test it and we can integrate it.
Need to breathe a bit on that. And maybe a last view, my view on the simulation question is that this is, for me at least, not a model to simulate something.
Yeah.
I think you use that model because you want to do something. And then you watch the outcome, and then you see the impact, hopefully, in the passive variables that you want to influence. So I think the simulation should get out that in case you pull the active levers, you influence the passive levers. So what's the point of simulating with that model? It's more about doing things and assessing whether you can pull the active levers or not. So whether you're in a situation to do something about it.
I used it diagnostically, not in a model. It was actually used to determine what to do next. So
Yeah, right. And I think that's the good application of the model. What's to do that gives you pull the upper left corner and do it.
Okay.
That's very good.
Good point. Thank you. I'd raised my hand, but not because I have a question of my own, but I spotted an interesting question in the chat, which was from Nicholas, who asked the question around are the variables evaluated but also normalized for the purpose of the matrix, or would this be unhelpful?
Yeah, also it depends, I would say. Also if it is a special company, so what would you say about normalized? Also what would this mean?
For me, I don't know whether Nicholas is on and wants to speak, but because Nicholas, you're still with us, but you're on mute. You've unmuted, Nicholas. Would you like to explain what you meant by that?
Hello. Well, it's a bit of mathematical notion, but if we have variables which describe things that are rather different, how do we compare bananas and apples, in other words?
Okay. Also I think, of course, the variables, also that's the system level we are talking also about, or that you have to like use variables which are more or less on the same aggregation level, or also not like normalized, but you cannot take something huge, 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 and then a small detail and bring it together.
Exactly. It's the effect of one over the other might be significant, and then we would need to reflect that, or the effect might not be so significant, and we also need to take that into account. So it could be a question of scale. It could be a question of factor of effect on the system. Yeah.
Yeah. Also if you really want, also we can, of course, we can do a simulation, and we have several also new possibilities also. We developed a lot of things also to simulate, but also I completely agree with Kai-Uwe, and that's the most important thing is to find the levers, and then, because what do you want to simulate? Also, of course, you must go so much into detail if to have a good simulation. And that's so much work. Also we did it for automotive company to develop new powertrains, alternative powertrains, one of our interesting German manufacturers. And we needed a young engineer, and he had to put in, also he had really to research the whole thing, or it was like a half year, only his research, and then to transfer it into the scales also. And then maybe the term normalizing comes again, because you have to, for the simulation, finally, you have to normalize the variables that you can bring them together in a senseful connection, and then of course also the table functions, and then you have to bring it to, also it's really work. But it can be done, but it's not, also I would say the most important thing, especially as you used to do it, Andrea and Kai-Uwe, it's in a practical management application with a practical question. Of course, you have other tools to simulate, oh, how much does it cost to have new employees and how many clients and so on. But this is another thing to simulate quantitative things or to bring them into a relationship. But these soft factors are the more important, and they are so difficult to understand and the common understanding.
In my mind, it was not necessarily linked to simulation, but maybe to appreciation by management. If we think in terms of one variable being linked to money, funds, that's always big money and very significant. The other one might be, I don't know, car factory quality, and then that's quite difficult to appreciate. And then the definition of that number or variable might be a bit more fuzzy, and management therefore would focus on one because it's the number rather than the other. And I wondered also how that articulates.
Yeah. Also I think you of course you have to think about, oder? Are they how somehow on a same level? Somehow, oder? This is clear, oder? The same systemic level. There can be, of course, external variables which you need in certain cases, but this is the discussion, and this is also what it needs or to be discussed in the team. Or that's because if you make it like general, in general, it might be this and that, then it's not clear. Or so people have to understand which are our variables and how are they interconnected and which are the most important ones. So that's simple, very good. Also, I like very much your explication, Andrea, also how you described it. Yeah.
Okay. Gabriel, Andrea, thank you to both of you for two excellent sessions with a lovely strong linkage between them. I could see how everything sort of flows together. Really excellent sessions. Great